Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 120 of Adeptus Podcastus, nice round numbers. Joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Hello everyone.
And joining us as our guest this episode is a very old friend of the show, someone who's been on many a time before and someone who I'm sure you are all glad to have back on once again. Ladies and gentlemen, Xenos of all ages and everything in between, NornQueenAlexis.
Hello. There's also a cart outside my house with a bell. Awesome.
Perfect time. Just as you click record, of course, that's exactly what happens. But it's good to have you back on the show. I know, obviously, you were on episode 102, I think it was. But even then, that's still 18 episodes, which is like 9 months ago. So it's, it's not been a while in episode numbers, but it's been a while in terms of time. So how is everyone doing today?
I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, not too bad overall.
That's it. Time to make it worse.
No?
I'm just kidding.
Yes, let's try and keep it all nice and positive because we want a good show today. So, in the news this week, not actually all that much. With the preview happening before the last episode with Sarah Corkwell, we actually didn't get a lot of new reveals this week, or this last 2 weeks, I suppose. There are a few things, though. Most notably, I think, in terms of reveals, would be the Dogmata, one of the new models for the Adeptus Sororitas.
Yeah, the chaplain.
Yeah, similar manner
Pretty
to
much.
Adeptus Astartes, yes. Sorry, I hadn't read it in a while, so yes, that is absolutely right. Holds the power to condemn any sister to the Repentia or a Mortifier, so do not annoy them.
Which is kind of weird considering that the Repentia is optional.
Yeah. Unless they're doing a bit of retcon of law or something.
Is it entirely optional, though?
Yeah, the Oath of Repentance is actually something that's documented in like 3 books. In fact,
Yeah.
the Mark of Faith has the entire litany in it at the end.
Fair enough. I didn't know if it was something that you could be condemned to or that was entirely optional.
I assume that you can be condemned to it, but we don't have enough lore on the Mortifiers or the Repentia themselves. And now they have the studs for their armor, so they essentially have the interface that Space Marines have, which was a huge retcon a couple of months ago.
Oh, I was going to say, don't worry in regards to law. Considering the state of the current codices, we're not going to get any law regarding the mortifiers anyway.
There.
Yeah, it has been a bit of an 8th and 9th edition problem of codices being a little bit...
No, the 8th edition ones have been fine in terms of law. They've been nice and chunky. It's just the 9th edition ones have been so lacking.
Actually, I haven't bought... I haven't bought a 9th edition codex, so I can't comment on just how thin they are, but like, in terms of the 8th edition book, certainly I got as much lore out of a Psychic Awakening book as I did out of a codex. In terms of new reveals, anyway. In terms of new stuff.
Yeah, the best comparison is... Oh, sorry, carry on.
The biggest thing for the newer codexes is just the immense amount of lore, not lore, but rules in them. And
because they've got Crusade.
Yeah, which I have yet to actually sit down and play a full Crusade. But I have been playing some games. I've tried some competitive games, and right now we desperately need tournaments back. Like, to balance out Space Marines and Drukhari.
Mm.
Yeah,
and Sisters.
admittedly.
Sisters are tier like 0 army right now.
And they're giving them all the shiny things. So basically the Sisters are 40k's Lumineth.
Kind of. They're getting a rather big nerf coming up very soon. I made a video about the Exorcist pretty much being nerfed into almost unplayable.
Fair enough. But as for the model itself, now that we've got round any lore bending, it's an interesting design. Certainly very, very studded. Like, so many studs everywhere.
I like the fact you got helmeted and bareheaded options. That's a nice thing.
I saw a few people not being particularly impressed with the head. I mean, I don't see it. Maybe it feels...
the Dogmata, who looks like her head was stretched out and looks like that head should be on a Slanesh cultist.
I don't know if that's the sculpt or the paint job though. They just maybe over highlighted some of the.
It's definitely GW's paint job. Like their sculpts, even for the one that looks like Macho Man Randy Savage, the Repentia Superior, or the fact that the Canoness looks like freaking Samuel L. Jackson.
I just want to with the Repentia Superior. I want to see someone actually convert into Randy Savage now.
Oh, it's Retributor. Sorry.
Like, maybe add a little speaker into the bass so when you press it, it goes, "Ooh, yeah."
Oh, dear. Sorry. Carry on.
But, yeah, GW's paint job of the Sisters of Battle has been hit and miss. There's Celestine, which was painted by a different studio, was amazing. Or a different painter in their studio. And then the new Sisters are just, it's like night and day.
It is interesting just like how much a paint job versus a sculpt can affect sort of how you perceive a model. And I'm thinking about it particularly with actually Teclis, because Teclis under the GW paint scheme, it's really, really pale, and it really kind of oversells the onesie almost. And Selenar looks lovely, but I never really grabbed Teclis that much, and yet now I painted my own Teclis, and I really love that model. Yes, okay, T-posing with attitude, I know, but I really, really love painting Teclis. Whereas sometimes a model, if you just see it, it might be to their advantage, maybe, to have on the product page, have it fully painted, all the showcase angles they normally have the sprues, but have one photo of the model built and unpainted. So that, I don't know if that might just help certain people visualize what they're going to do with it a little more, or sort of see exactly what they can do with it when it's not got a GW paint scheme over top. I don't know.
I actually agree with that. I would like to see some of these models unpainted, just built. Because then you can see all the details on the miniature prior to painting, and you can actually take the file and then just paint over it with a computer program and determine how you want to paint things.
Yeah, and as well for freehand stuff. So, for example, the Venari Bannerblade, new model for the Lumineth, all of it is sculpted, but to look at it painted, you wouldn't know what was sculpted and what was freehand. Now, luckily, a lot of modern-day GW stuff is sculpted, and they don't paint freehand on models, official models anyway, very often, if ever. But it's just interesting. It'd be nice to see exactly what isn't sculpted, so that you know what you are looking to replicate versus what you're going to have to invent. I don't know, at least for me anyway.
No, I can agree with that.
But if you were of an inquisitorial mindset, well, need I point you at the other revealed models between this episode and the last? That being the new Witch Hunter models for the Cities of Sigmar that everyone went, nah, that's an Inquisitor, mate. Those being the Vendests. Or Vendensts. Sorry.
So I actually just got a copy of Cursed City, and like, it's a ridiculously cool kit. It's an absolutely amazing kit. I put it together and I played a game of it, and I really enjoyed it. I donated that game to my shop. But I really wanted to keep that Inquisitor and actually give him an inquisitorial hat, or change it to be a woman or a non-binary person. But my biggest thing was, you kind of can't. The conversion options in there is really difficult for the Cursed City kit. Now, the newer stuff coming out, who do I want that for some acolytes?
Well, to be fair, Doralia Vendenst, the woman in question, she actually does come with a hat option.
No, I'm talking the
I know you mean Jelson Darroch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to come back to that point on conversion. I'm going to put a pin in that because I want to come back to that later. But yeah, they are really good sculpts in Cursed City, and I think we should probably PSA in terms of, I know a lot of people didn't get it or didn't get it on time. I know there's been people I've spoken to in the UK whose Cursed City has been very much delayed, which is not great. Hopefully there is just a reasonable explanation in terms of, okay, there was just an issue with the shipping because of COVID or whatever.
The actual thing is that GW as a company is dealing with Brexit, which is now forcing it to deal with its own international shipping and taxes and tariffs.
And that.
Company
Absolutely.
Companies such as that has little understanding of that. And here in the U.S., a lot of the stuff gets shipped to Texas. Texas had a train derail, then a fire, and then Texas froze.
Yeah, it did.
I have no idea what Texas did, but it pissed off the gods.
I suppose
and then you send
so.
things through to California, and then it's stuck in California.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Obviously, the international shipping is a whole different kettle of fish, and you're absolutely right. But even in the UK, there have been issues with getting Cursed City sorted as well, which is not great. But they're aware, and I'm sure that they'll work their way through it in time. I just wanted to mention it because I know if I didn't, then people would be asking, why didn't you mention it? So I'm mentioning
Another thing about the Cursed City, it's going to be very similar to Blackstone Fortress about this. Cursed City isn't going anywhere for 2 years. It's going to stick around just as long as Blackstone Fortress did. So you're going to be able to buy Cursed City even after its release. Even after they redo it, it's just going to take them a few months because of their lack of employees currently due to COVID and lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So just be patient with them is my whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And in terms of that idea about it being very similar to Blackstone, they have released War Scrolls for them as well for AOS to put them into Cursed City, and most of them have picked up the Cities of Sigmar keyword, as have
a good chunk of them.
As have the Vendensts, which really tells me, especially when you add in Settler's Gain and Harkiron and so on and so forth, all the cities in Broken Realms, I think that we'll probably get a Cities of Sigmar battle tome just either side of what I believe is going to be AOS 3 in July. I'm actually quite hopeful that maybe AOS 3 will drop and the main box game will not be Stormcast Verse. I'm hoping it will be a Cities box with cities, new city stuff versus, I'm guessing it will be Greenskins to then push a new cities book out in sort of September time. I'm just throwing that one out there, but I think we are getting a new cities book that's really going to double down on the Order of Azir, the Witch Hunters, and all of this new shiny stuff that they've been putting in with Cursed City and otherwise.
Oh, do you want to know something funny about Cursed City?
Go on.
You know the giant werewolf creature?
The Vaskir, yeah.
Yeah, you know what his name translates to?
Derek.
It's Icelandic, essentially. It translates to big cheese.
Ah.
Because skyr is a type of cheese/yogurt that's very popular in Iceland. In fact, I get it here in supermarkets and everything, and it's delicious. It's made in Iceland. And one of the words for it could either be wolf, large, or a word that determines the size of something. So essentially, his name is Big Cheese.
Fair enough.
Also, why is everybody deciding to use leaf blowers now, of all things?
I wonder when it's released in Iceland, if they change the name of the creature to something else in Icelandic. Kind of like, how with...
no, they never do.
I was just saying, because in the Indomitus box set, the Necron Lord for in Smash was called Senor Supremo or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's quite...
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in France, a lot of the boxes were the same in terms of the actual box that the model comes in is exactly the same. It's still the English, I think. But they do often have, particularly if they're not a trademarkable name, like Stormcast Eternals or Adeptus Astartes, they do generally try and bring them across. If they're not a keyword, then they generally try and translate them.
One of my favorites is the German name for the orc truck is Pick Up Der Orcs. I'm not kidding, it's right on the front of the box.
It goes to
I
pick
always
up the
found
orcs,
it
yeah?
quite funny reading the front of boxes, like the old boxes that had 6 different languages on the front. The High Elf Battle Force, the battalion, wasn't even called a battle force, it was called a battalion. The Bataillon des Hautelfs and the Hochelfen Streitmacht, as it was in German, or the Battaglioni degli Alti Elfi, which just sounds like a bloody piece of pasta. And that I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, it's a thing. And I do enjoy looking at some of the stuff. And the books as well, when they get translated, I forget some of the main ones that I remember. I remember when I was in France, going into the GW store, looking at the Black Library section and be like, what's that? That is, oh, that's that. And that's that. Trying to translate them. Yeah, I remember.
Oh,
I don't understand.
Wasn't there a thing with, you know that novel Darkness in the Blood? And it got like translated into Spanish. It was named something like L'Hombre du Sanguinius or something.
Yeah, well, Sanguinius is Spanish for blood.
Yeah, ombre, depending on how you pronounce it, ombre is the French word for shadow.
Yeah, but I was talking about Spanish.
And I know, I'm just trying to think, because it wouldn't be ombre, because that has a completely different meaning.
I could say this. It's just dark blood.
Fair enough.
Yeah, knowing random languages.
Absolutely, can't argue with languages. But we got very sidetracked there, trying to wheel it back to the witch hunters in question. I know a lot of people were like, yes, can we Inquisitor these, please, like, right flipping now.
Yes.
Which is fair enough, I suppose, and I can't argue with it, but it's good that, you know, they're actually fleshing out different aspects of the Mortal Realms again, because never hurts to do that. I think that was it in terms of new reveals this week for the new Model Monday stuff. But they did do a couple of other articles. There was one about the Beast Snaggers, the Squig Riders for the Orcs, and a few other things, such as the fact there's going to be a new starter set for Warhammer Underworlds, which has got Castigators and, don't fail me now, Glaive Wraith Stalkers, I think, and the Nighthaunt unit, and an essential starter deck sort of look in as well, which all are on pre-order at the moment, as I understand it, alongside the Warmaster Titan and the Loyalist Legio.
You know, that Titan that always existed and was always there in the lore. Shut up. Don't think about it. It was always there. You know, like in some books when they say that the Night Titans are so heavy that you can't deploy them on planets, you have to drop them on two sides of the planet. If you compare them to a modern day Gundam, they're tiny.
I mean, if you want to get technical and really, really nitpicky, they have been always there, because they're the original design for the Warlord.
Yeah, it's really dumb. And remember, and Rem, you can back me up on this, the Warlord is the most common of the Titans.
Yes, I remember seeing that bit of lore as well, yep.
It is, yeah. I couldn't remember if the Reaver had maybe overtaken it more recently, but yeah, that sounds right.
Oh my god, why am I getting so...
Oh, she's going to go lean out the window and tell him to shut up.
Quite so. But they did actually give us an article, as I mentioned, on the Beast Snaggers, the Squig Boys, which are honestly, like... I was watching the preview for the Grave Lords and all of that, and I wasn't that won over by everything on the first run through, and then these guys came up, and anyone who was in my Discord server just backed me up. I was cackling away as they revealed these things about how stupidly amazing they were. And we got to see another one of them in terms of having like sort of powered weapons. And the way they say it is, think of them as pro-squig rather than anti-thinking, which is a nice way of putting it. They'll still use weapons and or advanced tech. They just won't use a tank.
I love that new artwork we got from them as well. So nice.
Yeah. It really conveys that momentum that they would have. It is a serious... admittedly, they're not as good as the Gore Grunters, the Iron Jaws Cav, but that's probably because the Gore Grunters are they the single best piece of heavy cavalry in the game? That's a hard question. Who is the best heavy cavalry in Age of Sigmar?
Those new Blood Knights?
I mean, the new Blood Knights are lovely, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. They're not the peak that they used to be back in fantasy days. They were the finest heavy cavalry going, model-wise even as well. Nowadays, though, with things like the Varangard and the updated Juggernauts that just look boss, you've got the Dracos, which I absolutely love. You've got the the Igneth Cav don't really count, but I don't know who is the best heavy cavalry anymore.
I just realised something.
Go on.
Because, like, you know, these new beast snaggers, they are pretty much stated to be Snakebite clan, aren't they?
They are Snakebites mainly, but it does say that even a no-nonsense goth can look at a squig shockingly large teeth. They can be found across the entire spectrum. So many Snakebites are, but they can be found in other clans too.
Okay, so since these are going to be primarily Snakebite, I think this is like the first time we've had anything Snakebite related model-wise since like 2nd edition.
Yeah, unless you count like the Rucker Truck Squig Buggy as being a Snakebite type thing because it's a truck that fires squigs. But you don't really count that because they're still speed freaks at the end of the day.
Yeah. And with speed freaks, when you think speed freaks, you think of Evil Sons, don't you? So
you do, absolutely, because red ones go faster and all of that.
Yep.
But
I just hope we get like some throwback rules for like the cyborgs kind of thing. I know some of these models have got, you know, like bionic legs in there, but I'm hoping we get the actual specialist rules, like, you know, like the custom thrust injection thing, which like you just slam a big button down and injects them a bunch of chemicals and it makes them go berserk.
Bionic bounce, bring it back.
To be honest, adding bionics would reduce the bounce.
Nope, bionic bounce, pogo legs.
Yep,
but they're squigs.
Yep, pogo legs.
Yeah, but they're squigs. They already do that.
Then they'll do it even more. Then
you're not wrong. Absolutely, it would still be cool. And I'm not saying don't do it, but like squigs already do that.
I am going to explain the silliest thing in 40k that was ever actually a rule. Bomb squigs could attack airplanes and automatically hit, crash, and burn them.
Oh, that was in like.
Well, automatically hit.
Yeah, it was hit on 2s, wasn't it?
Yep. And then you had the grab and claw, which meant that a vehicle next to the grab and claw would just stop moving, and since it was an aircraft back in 5th edition, or 6th edition, it would just die.
Yep. Gotta love the old 4th edition Orc Codex, which was just lunacy on toast.
Yes, it was the greatest codex ever because of its rule explanation for why you can't have a boss in mega armor on a bike, because he would fall over a lot.
Absolutely. It was.
I love the fact that they included that, so I could see them getting all these weird.
It was
rules.
Yeah, that was my first codex. It was the 4th Ed Orc Codex, and it certainly was my initiation really into anything to do with 40k, and
like anytime somebody's being like super anal about the lore or something, I'm just like, haha, red paint job make truck go Bert.
The thing is, those people being arsey about lore is 99% of the time us. So
yes, and I am trying to remind myself the same thing. Like, you know, it's really fun. I still think WoG Orcs has one of the best scenes in it, and it's an orc outside of a spaceship fixing a wing without a helmet on.
As you do.
And the Big Mac pokes his head out the window with a bucket on it and just says, "Oi, you forgot your bucket." To which the orc looks up and dies. And I'm just like, this is the same universe where people argue about women being space marines. Let's
also not forget the fact that low-bearing walls are heretical.
Yeah, that was you just said the most ridiculous thing in 40k. I was about to jump in and say heretical low-bearing walls, but then you said that was also a rule, so I didn't.
Yeah.
But speaking of things being heretical, Angels of Death got... Oh, okay, this is heresy, it's xenomutation, but go with it. We got a new Angels of Death trailer, which showed off some of the enemies, primarily Gene Stealer cultists.
Why is it whenever they do anything with Blood Angels, Gene Stealers always end up getting involved somehow?
Look, there's a long-standing feud between the Gene Stealer cult and the Blood Angels, and everybody knows about this, except, you know, the rest of the people that read the lore, because I've never read a battle between the two.
I mean, I'm just thinking back straight away to, you know, the old Space Hulk days. Pretty much everything Space Hulk is always Blood Angels and Gene Stealers.
Yeah, and Darkness in the Blood, they were against Gene Stealer cults at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm just I watched the trailer and I did a breakdown of it, and it looks interesting. But we've been spoiled by things like Death of Hope, Astartes, Soda's work, and this thing kind of looks like a PS2 game.
I wouldn't go that far.
Keep in mind, PS2 games can go all the way up to 720p.
I'm aware of that, but I wouldn't say PS2. I'd say, I'd say at least early PS3.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But when I saw the one part with the Chimera and the treads around its around the outside were just one solid image. They weren't like broken apart and segregated like a tread would be. I was just like, and they were using a lot of lighting tricks. That's just easy animation. And like out of all the projects to GW to throw on their page, Angels of Death isn't exactly the one I'm excited
to play
for.
devil's advocate, is this trailer actually indicative of the final product, or is it still a work in progress?
Well, they say we don't have to wait long for it now.
I really hope it's a work in progress picture.
Well, they have said in the article that they've been building up to it since its announcement in 2018, and we won't have to wait much longer, so it will probably be out this year. I think that's a pretty safe thing to say.
Yeah.
That's fair. I'm just hoping that the storyline is actually really good, because visuals are one thing, visuals are amazing. They add to a storyline, but if the storyline isn't good, we're going to get another Space Marine.
That's a good thing.
No, Ultramarine.
Thank you.
Sorry.
In a defense of Ultramarines, at least we had John Hurt and Sean Pertwee in it.
Accurate. But to be fair, in terms of upcoming animation projects, I actually agree Angels of Death isn't the one I'm looking forward to the most. Not because Angels of Death is bad, but because the Exodite is right there. And I'm biased.
The Exodite looks really good.
I mean, I'm biased, but yeah. Yes, please.
I never would have guessed you would be biased towards the animation with the Tau in it.
Shut up.
You know what? It is completely out of left field. I did not expect it at all.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, next you'll be telling me that you'll be collecting, I don't know, Luminef or something. I don't know.
Oh, actually, Tactica, did you see that the XV9 Hazard Close Support Unit, the Tau Battlesuit, I still love its original name, is discontinued?
I haven't really been looking at 40k stuff for a while because can't play the game and also giant pile of shiny elf things. But no,
and the Slush things you bought as well.
Jokes can be made. But yeah, actually that's something we should talk about. Forge World is not doing hot right now. A lot of their great products are just being forgotten, including the Deathcore.
Well, I don't think anyone could replicate it, and it may have been modified or photoshopped, but I saw people sharing an image around of the GW website where it just was completely different, and like Heresy was embedded into it and Warhammer Forged. Now, I'm sure that was a bug because AOS wasn't there, but it was a thing that went round.
So, interesting thing about that. I've been talking to a bunch of people about this, and by a bunch of people, I mean actual people in the industry, people who manage other stores and what would be best for the hobby in general. And we all determined that Forge World is not good at making games. That flat out just not. Okay? It's not even fair. Like, units are hard garbage.
And GW's any better?
But when going...
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Technically, yes, because they test things. But I digress about that. What we think is happening... Forge World has always been like a tax write-off for GW. It's never made money. It barely scrapes by and counts as a loss for a $4 billion company, which is a huge write-off for them. But what I think they're going to do is they're going to take everything from Horus Heresy, everything from the non-specialist games like AOS and 40k, put it on GW's main site with plastic kits coming in the near future. And every other specialist game is going to go to Forge World, aside from the things that we have now, which we have been seeing in the recently with the additions of certain characters for Necromunda, for Titanicus, for Aeronautica Imperialis, which is an amazing game that a lot of people need to play. Please, I need more opponents. And Blood Bowl. And honestly, I think this might be one of the best business moves for GW.
Well, there's a few people I talked to who are quite into 30k, and there's been whispers / discussions of an updated rule set for 30k this year.
Oh yeah, that's actually happening.
But then people have been saying, hang on, but what about AOS 3rd edition and all this is all going to get in the way and yada, yada, yada. Beside the point, I suppose, but the idea that if GW took the 40k Forge World units rules off Forge World with the index stuff, GW rewrote that over the Forge World team back last year before, in 8th and 9th edition. And
yep, with the indexes and then the index compendium, which just got released.
Yes. So GW has been taking some of the rules stuff away from Forge World already. It will be interesting, I think, in terms of like your idea of maybe moving 30k over to GW's main line, which would certainly get it more eyes, which is probably the main thing that game needs, is more eyes.
It needs a balance patch, a new edition, a non-toxic player base.
But you can rewrite all the rules you like, and but you can't change the player base unless you get more people in.
Or you AOS it.
They're not doing that. They might do that, but I think that might, short term at least, that would seriously hurt them.
So, hear me out on this.
Oh, that's an old throwback line. Go on.
This is going to sound crazy. This is a crazy thought. 30k is done. Horus Heresy is done in the lore.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay? We're now on the Siege of Terra. I think the next iteration of the game is going to be the Siege of Terra, and it's going to take place with 8th edition's rules. At least I hope so, because tanks are completely useless in 30k. Unless they have Machine Spirit and Art Armor, or Heavy Armor, and...
I think there's a couple of counters to that. The first being that not everyone was at the Siege, so that would require taking some Legions and Primarchs out of the game, and they're not doing that because the Primarchs make money.
Well, which legions? Like the Dark Angels, the Ultramarines, and the Salamanders, I think, are all showing up at the end of Siege of Terra.
With no
Saturnine. Yeah, but at the same time, you just put the Primarch in there. In other clans, it's just like, is that Gosgold? Yeah, probably. They have them. They have the rules. They don't need to make sense. And then they make a campaign book that's just the other characters.
Yeah, they could find a way to do it. I don't know. Given that GW spent so much time talking up 9th over 8th and saying, oh, 8th was nice, 8th was great, but it was far too simple. We needed to add more complexity, yada, yada, yada. Beside the point of the argument, I don't see what sense it makes for GW to go, so you know that rule set that we retired last year because we didn't think it was complex enough or suitable for dealing with this, let's just slap that onto a game and completely rebuild 30k from the ground up with an old rule set that we admit is out of date and just decide to do that. I worry that as much as I know it alienated the fan base when Fantasy got rewritten to AOS, there was a hard law reset.
Okay, let's be real about that for a second. The fan base wasn't there, and there were just some clingy edgelords that pretended to play it who were just like, fuck my Tomb Kings.
But either way, though, true. It caused a stir. However big you think it was, it caused a stir. And when 40k went 7th to 8th, we were doing this podcast together when that happened. And it, again, whilst people generally had come around to the idea, okay, this might work, everyone was scared. Well, not everyone was scared, but certain people were concerned about the Sigma rising, I can't believe I'm using that word again, the Sigma rising of 40k, and while ultimately I think it was the right decision, it drove probably some people away, and those people will have found 30k as their sort of, okay, let's hold out playing the old way. Now,
in all fairness, my whole reason for them going to 8th edition is because it's a edition codex, and it never wanted to update to 8th edition, so it always wanted to stay an edition behind. So now there's no reason for that to go. That's it. It was strictly for a joke.
Apologies, playing it too straight. But yeah, I think there's an argument for it. I just would be very curious to see how that would be taken. Because, yeah, I don't know. It sounds like an interesting idea, though.
From a rules standpoint, we already have 9th edition rules for a good chunk of the vehicles and things from Horus Heresy. We're missing the Mechanicus, we're missing the Soul Auxilia and the Squats, but, and yes, Squats are playable in 30k. We're missing a few other things, but it would be cool to see them all updated to 9th edition, or at least the 8.5 to 9th edition rule set. And because I would play it at that point. Like, I have, I think, 6 30k armies that I've been working on. I have Admech, I have Demons of Khorne, Demons of Slaanesh, Demons of Runestorm, which I actually made a whole bunch of custom demons for. I have, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Emperor's Children, and Death Guard. Like, I really like 30k, but games of it are ultimately the same exact game over and over again. It's, here's my Spartan. My Spartan is equipped with Spartan stuff. I have a dude guy that's absolutely bonkers inside a Death Star unit of Terminators. I have heavy weapon teams. And every single game is just that.
I was so tempted to make a really outdated "this is Spartan" joke, but yeah, never mind.
Yeah, we'll see, I suppose. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is if there is AOS 3 this year and a full 30k rewrite, that's 2 huge...
How long has it been since AOS 2 came in? Because it hasn't been that long.
3 years. Bear in mind...
For AOS 2?
40k 8th came out 1 year before AOS 2. 40k 9th came out 1 year this summer. Huh. So by that...
I'm sure
and Broken Realms is such a clear changing of the guard because Nagash has just been beaten down so bad by the forces of light that the Soul Wars are effectively over. The narrative needs to change now to reflect the fact that Nagash just had his ass handed to him royally. Not as bad as by Archaon, but royally.
Oh yeah, I heard that Eletharion yeeted Ark in the Black into the void.
That's certainly one way of looking at it. Certainly Eltharion got his payback for the end times. He got his win back.
Also, Kayla Marathi Kane is still one of my favorite characters.
Marathi Kane is an interesting one as well, yeah. But either way, with the ascension of Marathi Kane, the defeat of Nagash and yada yada yada, they do need to update that game, and in terms of plot, not necessarily gameplay, but plot. So
and possibly the daughter of, or son or non-binary offspring of Slaanesh.
Yeah, the new Slaanesh that was birthed at the end of Broken Realms Marathi as well has to be considered. There's whatever Bellacor's up to. We know Alariel's up to stuff, and will probably be playing a role in the Kragnos,
the Umbraneth
Nothi faction, because they seem to be Sylvaneth. So they need to update that narrative. And that means that for 30k, and this is something that one of my Discord people mentioned, is that where do you put that? Because it's such a huge change that requires a lot of promo, a lot of push, and probably a new box game and all of that. Where do you slot that? Either...
Oh, I know this. Are you ready? Because 2021 con seasons are opening at the end of the year, so long as you're vaccinated and everything, and present your card and everything so you can get into conventions. There is still the possibility of next year, Adepticon, LVO, and Nova. So I think it'll be around then. Also, you got to remember that GW's only competition isn't itself. It's other games like Star Wars Legion, which is exploding, Armada, and X-Wing, which are all incredibly good games. You have games like Infinity, which are doing fantastic right now. There's actually a ton of competition that GW has to work around, not just itself. It can't pull a Blizzard and just be like, well, my only competition is me, or Disney.
True. Yeah, it may be that they decide to make it the 3-year rolling cycle of 40k 1 year, AOS the next year, 30k the next year, rinse and repeat. If they decide to go down that track, they could. But if they're retiring so much of the Forge World range now, which is where we go on to the entire point, why start pulling stuff now if you're not then going to do the reboot for 17 months or 15 months? It's a bit early.
Pick me. Oh, come on, you're
reading my head. I know you understand all the industry stuff. I'm just trying to think about it in terms of if you're trying to...
Oh, but the actual... one of the actual reasons... Oh, crap, I cut out. Okay, now I'm here. One of the actual reasons is currently Games Workshop is 130 days behind because of having to slow down all of their production and everything.
Yeah.
They're redoing everything in cycles now, and they can only pick a certain amount of kits to remake.
Yeah.
Now, a bunch of the new releases were made 6 months in advance, which is a good thing, which is why we had the Cursed City. But they were hoping to release the Cursed City and then remake the Cursed City. And by remake, I mean republish the Cursed City at this point, and they couldn't because they don't have the worker base to do it because of, well, the virus and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So why they're pulling it now is because they need those workers. Instead of working on Forge World units, which are not selling, they're pulling them away and asking them to essentially to work in the other building, which, just so you know, the separation of Forge World and Games Workshop they're in the same building.
Yeah.
They're in the same factory. So they're just allocating their workforce to what is actually selling right now and discontinuing things because they simply can't revisit them in time for any orders. So we have people still waiting for orders from November.
Fair point.
So that's just something to keep in mind, and a lot of industries are suffering with this right now. Asmodee is doing the best that they can. Infinity is having a little bit of trouble with shipping, and you can see this affecting a lot of game stores around the countries, different countries, obviously. And it's something that I just want to say to everybody out there that's listening: please go and support your locals, especially during a pandemic. Even if it's to call in advance and order something, or call them to buy something that's in stock and do on-site pickup or curb pickup, because you need those stores to stay active during this so that you guys have a game store available.
Yeah.
Support your locals.
Yeah, because in the UK at least, or England and Wales, I should say, GW and other stores should be opening up, be open by the time the show comes out on Monday. The opening Monday, show comes out Wednesday, sorry. So, again, I would sort of echo that is I have a GW in my town, but I have a store that I use. And whilst I've been buying a lot directly or through secondary publishers like Element Games during lockdown, because, well, I used to live around the corner from Element, so I'd support them anyway. It's worth just doing that. I need to go get some more paint. Like, I'm not going to bother ordering paint off GW. I'll just buy it from my local. I've got all the models I need now because they came out in the new release dumps, but I'll keep getting my paint from there. And things like that. Just keep ticking over and giving your gaming hall a place to exist come 6 months' time or 5 months' time or whatever month's time when things can go back to getting round the gaming table, whenever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Can't argue with that. But yes, interesting discussion for sure on all things regarding the future of different parts of the hobby.
Also, Cursed City is Darkest Dungeon, fight me.
I mean, I saw some of the articles about it that it's got like hunger mechanics and stuff like that. I haven't really looked into it hard enough because I haven't bought it, but it does sound interesting.
The art style is just Darkest Dungeon. And it plays just like the Darkest Dungeon board game coming out.
Fair enough. But
not saying that's a bad thing. It's amazing.
Oh, absolutely not.
It also plays very similar to the Dark Souls board game.
I Have I seen that?
That's convenient because Ghost City reminds me a lot of Bloodborne. So.
Yep. See? 300% IQ here.
Right. Is there anything else in particular? A little bit of a Blood Bowl, like Blood Bowl sevens, because, well, they've ripped off American football. Now let's rip off rugby sevens. Sounds like a good idea to me. Which is...
I don't get it. Why don't Americans call football what we call football? Why don't we call it what the rest of the world calls it? Gridiron. It sounds so much cooler.
I mean, we just call it American football. Or... because
It sounds so much better as gridiron.
Or, as the late great Total Biscuit would say, hand egg.
Yes. Hand egg is amazing. I don't actually watch it, but I go attend the parties. Well, not this year or last year, but...
Yeah, we know what you meant.
You get what I mean.
But there was one other announcement, I guess. The April Fool's announcement.
Okay, I'm not going to joke. I would watch that movie if it was presented in as cheesy a way as possible, especially the way that, like, some fans think Space Marines are, like, completely invincible. If it was that, like, the Space Marine standing there and all the bullets just bouncing off him and him just going, ha ha ha, silly Xenos, you can't beat one of the Primaris Space Marines. I would have just lost it. It would have been so good.
I'd rather see an Acorn the Squirrel movie, but that's just me.
I would fund that movie. If there is an animator out there that needs funding right now to make that, hit me up, please.
But yes, they jokingly announced Primaris Lieutenant, the movie. And to be honest, I was working that day, and I was just flicking through my newsfeed at lunchtime, and I saw this, and I completely forgot what day it was. I was like, actually, hang on, that sounds quite plausible. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. And then left it. It didn't even click in my head that they were joking because it's GW. Like, I didn't click the article. I didn't watch the trailer or anything like that. I just saw it on my news. I was like, huh. And then just moved straight past it because it sounded completely plausible.
Starring James Workshop as the Lieutenant.
Yes.
That's amazing. I would definitely watch it, just saying.
You may be the only one.
It's cheesy. Like,
no, loads of people will watch that, though.
40K is like the darkest, silly setting ever.
Yes. I mean, there's a reason a lot of people refer to it as Grimderp.
Yes. That is 100% a completely accurate description. That's good.
Yes.
There's much serious stuff that's in there, like the Celestine book, the Mark of Faith, and those kind of
and don't forget, in one of the Caiaphas Cain books, they had Eeyore the donkey.
Yep.
Sorry, Eeyore the donkey.
One of my favorite... I still think one of my favorite moments in a Caiaphas Cain book was when he realized the witch elves weren't trying to... Not the witch elves, the witches of the Dukari weren't trying to kill him. So he kept presenting, like, his vital organs to them, so they had to pull their blades, and then he beat them.
Yeah,
I'm just like...
I've got one of the Caiaphas Cain books somewhere away. I think it's the zombie one, Dead Men Walking. Yeah, I need to get around to that at some point.
So good.
Don't doubt it. But I have managed to finish, in terms of books. I got through Dawn of Fire, Gate of Bones. Admittedly, I started it a couple of episodes ago, but with everything going on, I sort of deferred talking about it until now. I got it finished. And, yeah, interesting one.
Considering it's been out for a little while, do you need a spoiler warning for this, or...?
I'm trying to think when it...
Spoiler warning, Alexis doesn't know this one, so I can't comment on it.
I don't know whether it needs... It's been maybe... Actually, it has been about 3 episodes since I even mentioned it last, so I think we're okay.
Okay.
But I might leave a timestamp in the description just in case if people do want to skip, but I'm not going to consider it a full, like, blown mega spoiler thing like we do with Siege of Terror.
Okay, but quick question. Is the gate actually made of bones?
I don't think there was ever particularly a gate mentioned.
False advertising, 0 out of 10.
Yeah. 0 out of 10.
There's no assault on the Gate of Bones or anything like that. And so, if there is, I completely missed it. But I did.
If there isn't a reference to Skeletor in it either, it's a 0 out of 10.
Well, sorry to disappoint in that case.
They could make a reference to Nagash.
But what it does do is, as a book, there are very few moments, and I think this is something they talked about before Dawn of Fire, where it's not just going to be about the Space Marines. Now, Avenging Sun mostly was, but Gate of Bones, we never get a chapter where we're actually with the Primaris Marines. Not one. You get a few chapters where you're with Chaos Marines, Word Bearers, and Iron Warriors, to be precise. But you never get any time with the Primaris. They're there in the background for 10 minutes, and that's about it. This book really focuses on 3 main groups. You've got the Mordian Iron Guard, the Imperial Knights, and the Adeptus Custodes.
Wait, which Imperial Knights?
House... One I didn't know. It was a house I didn't recognize. It's not one of the main ones.
Okay, so it's not like House Antioch or House Metallica
No. They're a knightly house that had sworn oaths to defend Cathalamor, and so they were there. And it mainly follows up their princess, because they're very much a feudal household, and her sort of...
You mean like the Imperium?
Yeah, but
That's
like...
right. The Imperium is a feudalistic empire.
Oh, it is, absolutely. But like they're a bit more overt into calling people kings, queens, and princesses.
Yeah. I'm saying that for the meme, because a lot of people don't know what the Imperium actually is.
But what it does really well, and this builds on Guy Haley's work, because this one's Andy Clark, is, by God, the dialogue is brilliant. Again, one thing that they do really well in this book is they make you care about these characters. And they make you invest in them, even if you've only known them for 10 pages, and even if you're really not supposed to like them, because everyone in this book is a bit of a dick. Like, the custodians are all dicks to each other and to the humans. Chaos Marines are Chaos Marines and are not very nice to the cultist character. You've got the Knights, who can be quite dismissive. You've got the Marines. You've got the Sisters of Battle, who play a predominant sort of supporting role for all the factions. They are not particularly kind or compassionate or...
I mean, it's the Sisters of Battle.
No, but no one is. For that. No one is. Like, not even... Like, the nearest thing you get to just someone you can actually relate to as a person is the Mordian General, who was always like, keep a brave face on in front of your troops and this, that, the other, and like left his wife behind and all this sort of stuff. You can't relate to him, but he at least feels human. The others don't. It works almost in its favour, because the Custodes feel so far detached. Like, we spend a bit of time with a shield captain. He's sort of the main custodian character, Marcus Akalor, I think his name is. And he's sent to Cathalamor by the Tribune, Colquan, which is a name I think many of us will know.
Colquan was a massive dick, wasn't he? Colquan was the massive dick, wasn't he?
Well, Colquan says, I am sending you and half of Exilari, that's half a squad, 5 Custodes. But, sir, if you gave me 3 squads, we could take the planet. I know. That's why I'm sending you with half a squad. So that you don't get distracted and try to take the planet back. That's not what you're there to do. Your job is to find what is going on Cathalamor, sort it, and then if you can help, then help. But do not get into your bloody hero complex, Akalor, and try and save the bloody planet. That's not your job. It's just like, jeez, Colquan.
Yeah, don't be the good guys, you jerk.
Insinuating that the Imperium are the good guys.
Not at all. But...
I mean, Gilliman.
But...
see, you can't say no.
What the issue on Cathalamor is what the Chaos Forces have been mining for. The tomb of Cathalamor's most infamous ruler. Bucharest.
You can't, I didn't hear what you said, sorry.
Oh. The Chaos Forces are mining on Cathalamor, looking for one thing in particular. The tomb of Bucharest.
Ooh.
Now, Bucharest, for those who don't know, is the cardinal from the Plague of Unbelief, and ruled his own little mini empire out of Cathalamor at the time. And he was cast down and replaced and scrubbed from all Imperial history, but his tomb remained and appeared to be haunted by his evil, malicious spirit. And eventually the Chaos Forces find his ring, almost, which they then use to power up a super weapon, which they call Bucharest's Gift. And when I say super weapon, I mean it shot an entire Imperial battle group out of the warp super weapon.
So the classic super weapons in 40k that make absolutely no logistical sense
I'll be honest, I was disappointed to hear that it wasn't a Mechagodzilla.
Should have been a Mechagodzilla. That movie was fantastic.
The plan, in the end, was to use this to shoot down Fleet Primus. Battle group, Guilliman's battle group of Fleet Primus, I should say, because Fleet Primus is huge. Because Guilliman was going to be passing through, because Cathalamor was kind of one of the main ways out for Fleet Primus. And after blowing up Battle Group Orpheus in one shot, I don't remember if it actually shot them while they were still in the warp or not. It was either just before or just after they left the warp. But it was a ludicrous supergun. And that was the idea.
At least they didn't find it in the garbage.
No, they did build it.
Yeah, the joke being that Planet Killer was literally found in a pile of garbage.
Right.
I'm not joking about that. That's the actual lore for Planet Killer.
But anyway, the objective becomes, right, we need to deal with this, because it unleashes a spectral wave of, ghosts of Cathalamor that assail the defenders, and, shoots an entire battle group out of the sky in a single shot. So the mission is essentially that the Custodians will split into two groups, and one will launch a full frontal assault, supported by the Knights and the Guardsmen, and yada yada yada, whilst, 3 Custodes, a Canoness, and 1 guardswoman, who's a renowned scout, and that's set up earlier in the book, will infiltrate the palace of Bucharest, his former palace, and destroy the weapon in some way. And they do this.
Does that guardswoman have a long last?
Top of my head. I can't remember, top of my head. Either way.
Okay.
They do this infiltration and get attacked by essentially what are, demon servitors, the best way that they're described.
Makes sense.
Not Chaos Androids, then.
No, demon servitors, possessed servitor type things. And they escape into the palace out of this underground system by literally climbing up a pile of corpses. Yes, it is you custodians climbing up a pile of corpses. And
that's Tuesday in 40k, though,
Makes
isn't
it?
Makes
sense. It's appropriate. And they succeed, though not without cost, because 1 custodian and the guardswoman fall back down into the pit and are unable to escape, as far as we're aware at this point. And Akalor himself dies at the hands of a word-bearer demon prince who is transformed and is also a direct servant of Corpheiron. So Corpheiron makes a cameo appearance.
Ooh.
Haha, I'm here to do evil stuff. Are you going to actually do anything?
No, he was an astral projection. No more. So Corpheiron is chatted to at one point by the Wordbearer's apostle character, who is infused with power, becomes a demon prince, and kills Akalor before being killed by Sister Bolters. Because the whole...
In all fairness, they do have blessed bolts, and Sister of Battle willpower is extremely powerful.
Point. The whole book is playing with its sort of underlying message about faith and the need for the Imperium's faith. Because the Custodians are the Custodian is saying to Akalor, why are you humouring the sisters? Why are you not denying the Emperor being a god and this, that, the other? And Akalor's because we kind of need it. Look around you.
Wait, they already did that exact storyline, essentially, the whole discovering faith and everything, with Guilliman when he was chatting with the preacher about the Sisters of Battle.
Yes, but bear in mind, that's...
And the Custodian...
Bear in mind, that story doesn't take place for another couple of decades, because it's Plague War.
Oh, okay, because the Custodian literally says, the one that's been beneath serving the Emperor, he said, when you stand beside the Emperor, there is no difference between God and godlike.
Well, either way, Akalor's more as like, I'm humouring them. I need them to work with me. I'm not just about to bring their entire system shattered down on them. And they have a really good theological, philosophical argument about, well, something is giving the sisters the power that they have. Something's doing it. Why not the Emperor? Does he have to be a god to do that? And so on and so on. It's quite interesting. And the whole sort of final message is that the sisters' faith is so strong that, yeah, they can put down a being of the warp that has just caved in the skull of a custodian with his bare hands. As you do.
Be gone, thought.
Either way, that's sort of the...
I hate that that's an actual effective way of banishing a demon. So is complex mathematics or silly straight shapes.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I'm not kidding. Those are real things. It's so...
I know.
Could you imagine, like, a demon prince breaking into somebody's room? Like, let's just use Remleiz, for instance. Just smashes through the door, and Remleiz is just like, hey, do you want to see my Pokemon cards? Let me start explaining all of this stuff to you. And the demon just gets banished.
It's funny you should mention Pokemon, because I have to go on a tangent about that later on, but we'll get back to after Tactica's story.
Oh, there it is. The demons are coming.
Yeah, carry on, Tactica.
So that's sort of the main cut and thrust of the plot arc is Akalor, Faith, the Custodians. And Akalor is actually given a full ecclesiarchal funeral on Githalamor. Like, it's such a lie. And Colquan is now on planet. It's like, yeah, this is all for show. A custodian, one of the most like, secular groups in the galaxy, is buried on a cardinal world with full ecclesiarchal honours and yada, 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 just to feed the lie, which, yeah, is just quite interesting. But a lot of the subplots revolve around, for example, the cultist who uncovers Bucharest's tomb and spends a lot of her time sort of around the word bearers, and eventually ends up leaving with Lord Tenebrous, who is the Chaos Lord, because they realise, okay, we're not going to fire this weapon again, we're going, because the custodians are here, we're done, we're going. And they just leave. And there's also an Iron Warrior, who essentially is a tank pilot / driver come gunner, who is slowly fusing with the tank over time. So every time they go to leave the tank, they have to pull out the... What?
That sound basically just like...
They have to detach all the connections, and it's getting harder and harder to get them out every single time as they're sort of becoming more at home in the seat and more comfortable.
Part of the ship, part of the crew.
Yeah. And they actually flash back to should have been killed by Korax on Istvan, actually. They flash back to Istvan 5 when Korax showed up. But...
Hey
guys, do you remember that thing that happened 1,000
years ago? Hey, surprise, it's Korax!
That line went through my head as well. But sort of they've got a sort of a running battle with the leader of the Night Lance. And by the way, this knight is a custom knight because it's like a regular knight, but it's also got the Heatstorm weapon of the Knight Valiant, the Dominus weapon. So it's a regular knight with a Thunderstrike gauntlet, but also got the Flamer weapon of a Dominus class knight, because of course it does. And their sort of running fight, which ends up with, I think, both of them dying, and sort of how the house responds to that. And those two have a really good hunter dynamic where they're both sort of the apex predator of their own kind and trying to take each other out, and this, that, the other, which is quite good. Overall, though, what sticks with you with this book is the dialogue, again, which is something that Dawn of Fire is doing really, really well, because not anyone. It is probably easier to write Chainsword Go smash action scenes than it is to write engaging dialogue to make you like characters who you have no right to like.
Question. Is this book more, as we say, more coherent and more streamlined than the first one? Because the first one did meander quite a lot.
I think what it does differently, because Avenging Sun gave each character a chapter. Had a chapter here, a chapter there, a chapter there, a chapter there, with about 5 plot arcs at a time. Gate of Bones is running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5 arcs in parallel, but there are 3 sections to every chapter. So you're never away from them for too long.
That's good, because that's one thing I remember from Avenging Sons. Like, we get one thing set up in chapter 2, and we don't come back to that until chapter 22.
Yeah, there is still stuff mentioned earlier that is paid off later. Absolutely, that's just good writing. But you're never away from a character or a plot thread for more than 2 chapters.
That's good.
And then you're back with them again. And it gives the idea that these things are genuinely happening in parallel. Because Dawn of Fire 1, Avenging Sun, I keep calling it Dawn of Fire, it's not Dawn of Fire, that's the series. Avenging Sun, there were lots of different plot threads going on, but you didn't realise that they were all happening at once until a few people came together at the end. This one, it really feels like the stories are running in parallel. You've got the attacks by the Custodes on the main gate, including a ship that is the Custodes ships that can do inverted void shields and also run completely silent against Arc Mechanicus level detector vessels.
Inverted void shields?
Some sort of inversion technology that either it was their void shields or their stealth tech was inverted in some way so that they were completely undetectable in low orbit. Like there was like an Arx Mechanicus level scanner that the Dark Mech had in orbit, and it couldn't find them. They only knew it was there when they started bombing the planet to bail out the Custodes.
Right.
Now, what they could have just said that would make a lot more sense is that the Custodian vehicle was
it is fast and stealthy and really blasty, but it also had to hide from the best scanner stuff that could detect half a system away in the Arx, not half a system away, like pretty much could detect any warp intrusion into the entire system, and it didn't detect them arriving with this Custodes ship. But again, as I say, you're never away from a plot arc for too long. There's only one sort of Deus Ex Machina, really, which is the fact that the Custodian and the Guardswoman who fall into the pit of corpses don't die by the end. They stop somehow, like, and then in media res, they just turn up back at camp later. Somehow.
Hello, we just came back. Oh, how was your mission? Oh, we fell down a hole, got bored, and
Either
left.
way, that feels like the only thing that felt convenient. Everything else sort of flowed quite well and paid itself off. And at the end, what's quite nice, because the book sort of begins and ends with Fabian Guelfrain, the Historitor from Avenging Sun. And he's sort of, at the start, he's being roused to go and join the War Council and record that, which is the last bit that we mentioned before, which was really, really good with Belisarius being a massive troll. And at the end, he turns up to essentially interview everyone. And sort of, rather than being a propaganda machine, he just comes down and says, I want your story. What happened? And it ends with him sitting down with the Mordian general and sort of being like, tell me everything. And he does. We don't see any of it because we've just read the book. But he sort of tells the story again to Guelfrain, just to give that sort of continuity that, yeah, the Indomitus Crusade is still going on in the background. Guilliman was en route, now he's here, and Guelfrain is here as the cities are being restored. Though it is quite funny as, well, he finds it sort of weird and amusing that as he's walking down the city streets, the population of Githalamor are penitently throwing themselves on their knees in front of him, and as he walks by, like, please forgive us, Lord, please forgive us. I'm no one's lord, I'm just a bloke. Like, to them, you are an ambassador of Lord Guilliman himself. Keep up appearances. You are. And it's just, this is what Dawn of Fire is doing right. It's not character drama, but its character work is fantastic. Its dialogue is brilliant.
It's
character development, dialogue, and exposition through dialogue that never feels forced or like, here's an exposition dump. I praised this in Avenging Sun. The conversations between Guilliman and others, just sort of, for those of you in the back who didn't know what the lore of Warhammer 40,000 was, here's a quick history lesson. Or here's a quick establishment of the setting in 3 pages. And it never feels forced, it feels natural. So I really enjoyed it. Once I actually got a chance to sit down with it, I flew through it. So yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next, though. Anyway.
I highly recommend the Guardians of the Throne.
Watches of the Throne, I mean.
With a... it has a
those
Leia and
ones.
Valerian in it. The Custodian
Watchers
and
of the
Sister
Throne. Yes,
Silence.
that. Yeah, okay.
Watchers, yeah. Sorry, there's so many.
Yeah, I generally try and read
books.
stuff Rem hasn't read and discussed on the channel so that I have something to talk about.
I love those
They are
two
good.
books so much.
But yeah, I'll probably not read those. I'll probably go for... I suppose all the fiction I have pretty much is AOS fiction, like the End of Enlightenment novel, the Stormvault novel. I've got Covenants of Blood on the go. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do next in terms of books. But yeah, that is Gate of Bones, unless there are any further questions.
No, that's pretty much it.
They got boned.
Close spoilers.
I had to say it at some point. Like, I was waiting for Rem to say it, and I think Rem, like, missed his opportunity earlier. Like, you know, it was on the stack, he missed timing, it didn't work, so I had to do it.
Fair enough. Rem, I know obviously we had Mortis to finish off, and that's all sorted, but where are we in terms of what we're going to be talking about next episode? Because we're already at an hour and 15 here.
Well, I've started reading through Firecast, but I've also started reading through the Blood of the Emperor anthology. I'm about halfway through that, because there's only 6 short stories, and I've done 3 of them. So I can talk about some of them if you'd like.
Yeah, if there's anything in particular interest that's grabbed you. Because Okay, right, okay. If that's the reaction, I'm locked in.
If I can find the fucking words. So the 3 stories I've read so far are one focusing on Horus, one focusing on Leman Russ, and one focusing on Magnus. And I'll go into a bit more detail shortly, but suffice to say, Horus is a Pokemon, Leman Russ canonically smells a dog, and Magnus is a prick. Right.
All of these things check out.
So let's start with the first one, which is called, if I can get the fucking torch, because I forgot to turn my fucking light on, and it's pitch black in here. Right, okay. So the first one's called Lupus Daemonis, which focuses on Horus's youth on Chthoniya. Now, before he was called Horus, he was called, and I don't know how you fucking pronounce it, because it's got fucking umlauts on it, but it's Nergui. It's like N-E-R-G-U with an umlaut I, so I'm just going to call it Nergui, for sake of convenience. So, basically, when Horus was found by his adoptive father was pretty much immediately killed after finding him. Of course. So he gets taken in by a Chthonian gang. He's looked down upon by the other members of the gang because Horus is small, reedy, and covered in scars, and he has blue eyes where everyone else has sea green eyes. Sea green. I wonder if that will play a part later. And we come back because we have some members of his clan, celebrating because they've just been blooded. They just made their first kill in the clan, so they are now real men. They're real men. And Horus's name of Nergui, what it literally means is one without a name, because Horus doesn't have a name yet because he hasn't killed anyone, therefore he doesn't get a name. Yeah, that's how Chthoniya works, apparently.
As you do.
He gets regularly beaten up by his clan brothers, but they can't make him cry out in pain. That really pisses them off. They just beat the shit out of him and he just takes it. So one day, he gets another beating. He talks back to them, gets another beating. One of the clan brothers, I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's a guy called Aromagon, not to do with Omegon.
I was going to say.
Yeah, Aromagon. He pulls out a knife and attempts to kill Horus. One of the other clan brothers tries to stop him. Sorry, his clan sister tries to stop him. She ends up dying, and then Horus gets told, right, dump her body into a pit, will ya? Cheers. As you do.
As you do.
So, what Horus decides to do, he decides to go to the surface of Chthoniya, because no one goes to the surface because it's rad blasted because of the sun, which is a blue star. But he hears stories of how there's blue-eyed ghouls on the surface, and the blue-eyed ghouls is basically why no one trusts him, because he's got blue eyes like the ghouls.
Right, okay, that makes more sense now.
There's a blue-eyed white dragon, isn't there?
No, sadly.
They missed a perfectly good opportunity.
But in order to get to the surface, he has to pass through the territory of the most violent and savage and cruel of all the Chthonian gangs, which is called the Justarin.
Ding, ding, more reference.
More references. He gets to the surface, and what he finds on the surface are Mechanicum explorators digging out a piece of technology from the ground, which is basically Horus's gestation pod.
So, so hang on, so Horus crash landed on Chthoniya, the planet.
Yep.
And was found and taken to a place where the people live, even though he landed in a place where no one goes. How did he get from Chthoniya to the gangs?
I'm guessing
he walked.
He probably crawled down a hole or something. I don't know. He probably fell down a hole. I don't know.
Oh right, sorry. When you said to the surface, my brain was just half not listening and sort of assumed he was living on Chthoniya's moon. I was just being a massive idiot. Ignore me.
It's not as bad as freaking Angron getting out of his pod and beating up a bunch of Dukari as a toddler.
In fairness, they did retcon that in his novel.
Nope, I refuse to acknowledge that.
He didn't actually, in his novel, he didn't actually beat him up. He was running away from them. And then he got found by Slayer.
And you just want to embrace the stupid. Why? Just let them fix
anyway,
the stupid.
Well, let me explain this really quickly, because all I can think about is that moment from Kung Pao with the baby fight. And that's it.
Oh, don't worry. Things get stupider later on. I'll tell you this now. Anyway. So he's watching his Mechanicum, like Skitari and Tech Priest and that dig out the stasis pod. One sees him and starts shooting at him. Horus runs, gets caught by the Skitari. They get into a fight. Horus kills him, takes his gun, and goes back down into the tunnels. And goes back to his gang saying, "Look, I killed one of the ghouls on the surface. I even stole his weapon. And it's covered in blood. So this blood tastes like oil. Oh shit, you're going to lead him right to us, you little twat." All of a sudden, you hear drilling. It's like, yep, they found us. Oh, I'm going to beat the shit out of you for this, little Nurgui. So Nurgui and his gang leader get into a fight. Horus kills the gang leader, and the gang leader, impressed that Horus actually killed him, gives him the name of Horus. As you do.
As he's dead.
Yeah. But wait. Now we get to the stupid part.
Oh no.
So, slight side tangent. This is completely relevant. Just to put you into the mindset. Right, you know Pokemon, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You know the Pokemon cartoon series, whenever a Pokemon evolves, they glow and they get big and change shape. Just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind.
Oh no,
He's gonna do
no.
So Horus has a vision from the Emperor, where the Emperor says to him, "It's time."
Oh no.
And Horus evolved. Basically, your Nurgui has evolved into Horus. Hang on, I'll get the exact passage. Hang on, where is it? Let me get the passage up. Let's go get the lights on.
Just remember, 40K is a completely serious story setting. Everything is 100% hard lore.
I haven't even heard it yet. Oh god.
Where is it?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Right. It is time. 3 simple words, but they were the key to unlocking the sleeping power within him. It unfolded in waves of surging raw emotion, consuming the no-name boy he had been and rewriting him. Long dormant genes awoke and began their miraculous work. Synapses within his mind blazed as fresh connections were forged. Bones and organs swelled with new purpose. His body surged, all flesh ripe with ambition as a vast and unknowable anatomical shift took place within him. Veins and arteries burned phosphor-bright trails across his numinous flesh as his old self was shed like a serpent's skin too small to contain its apotheosis. He literally Pokemon evolved.
Oh, God.
Your Nurgui has evolved into Horus, and then later on when he goes to, Molech, he evolves into fucking Lupercal. There we go.
Oh, God.
We have a Horus Pokemon evolutionary change, ladies and gentlemen.
The problem is, if Horus did that, do any other...
No, this is not mentioned by any others I've seen.
Did Lehman Russ land as a sort of had to work very animalistically, like a wolf cub, because he was being raised by a wolf, and then when the Emperor sent his message, he evolved into a human? Is that what's going to be confirmed to be the case now?
I hope not.
No, it just sounds ludicrous.
Yeah.
No, it sounds lupercal.
Lupercus.
Oh, that didn't land. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, you know what? I tried.
Yeah, I know you did. I'm sorry. That one just
tried.
didn't land. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Right.
you know.
I will say the next story, the Lehman Russ story, is actually a lot less nonsensical overall.
It's Lehman Russ.
I know, less nonsensical. I know, shocking. But before I go into that, I just want to say the horror story overall, it was good up until the fucking digivolving bullshit at the end. That kind of like...
Nah, screw that. That was Monster Ranchers.
Yeah, like, couldn't they have just had him kill the gang leader and that sort of maybe awaken a bit of psychic potential? Or maybe
I forgot the end. I forgot the ending. Oh, sorry. After he digivolves, the Mechanicum bore through into the chamber. A Skitite goes up to him and goes, "I've got the boy." Horus kills him and says, "My name is Horus." Which, when all I'm reminded of is that scene from Monster Squad, with the fat kid who goes, "My name is Horus," and cocks a shotgun. Also, Monster Squad, great fucking movie. Go watch it.
I feel like there was an easy way to get around this problem of maybe, yes, his first kill and being blooded does activate some sort of dormant psychic energy, and he is able to fight off the Mechanicum so impressively that the gang just go, "Okay, you know what? You are a monster. We are just not going to try and kill you now," and back off and run away. That would have been enough.
Even if it was just like, he unlocked the memories of the Emperor and his creation. That's all you needed. You didn't need him to literally go altered beast on us.
Yeah, because this is the first time we've ever had confirmation of a weedy Primarch. All the other Primarchs were Adonises of their age and ultra geniuses by the time they were teenagers. What made...
in all fairness, we also had Perturabo. That's it. I don't like Perturabo.
Oh, I was trying to think about Perturabo's backstory and trying to think of a way that he wasn't super built and super intelligent by the time he was...
I just remember...
I think the only one who wasn't super built is Alfaros and
Which is by design.
Yeah.
I just remember that story about Perturabo before he got adopted, where he was literally just Conan the Barbarian. He literally ate a Hydra.
Exactly. All the Primarchs before have been either super learned or super beat sticky at very young ages. None of them needed to go through an evolution or an awakening in order to become the monsters that they are. Because some of them were found pretty much at birth. For example, Corvus Corax, to give a prime example. Corvus Corax wasn't just a flipping hatchling in an egg for 2 years, or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't get it. But also, I know what they were going for. I just don't get it. I don't think it quite stuck the landing.
Yeah. So, moving on to the Lehman Russ story, which is called, if I can get the fucking torch on, Skulls. So this one, we start off from the perspective of a band of Fenrisian hunters, because their village had been ransacked by a beast, and they don't know what the beast is, but all they know is that it killed their families, and so they're on a hunt for revenge.
Assuming this beast is Lehman.
No.
Okay.
Surprisingly not, no. I thought it was going to be, because I thought it was going to be, maybe it was back when Lehman Russ was still with the wolf pack and raiding villages for food and stuff. I thought it was going to be that, but it's not. Also, Fenris has Draugr, because of course it fucking does.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Of course it does. Even though they're described to be more like banshees, but you can't have anything Irish from a Scandinavian world, but hey. Yeah, I digress. So they're going...
My inner Irish and studying of Irish culture is just kicking in right now, and I'm like, you do know that Iceland has an entire pocket of Celts, right? But anyway, continue.
I'm talking in regards to more like Sweden and Norway rather than... I digress.
They're not even real.
That's the Finns you're thinking of.
That's a bunch of Thorabus.
Anyway, so as they're going from village to village trying to track down this beast, they set off into a cave to spend the night, and they start telling stories about the Russ. Have you heard the stories of the Russ? I heard that he was a man made of snow who had a wife and child that were melted by the sun, so he stabbed the sun with a spear of ice, and that's what caused the first long winter on Fenris. Well, I heard that he was a mighty king and a great warrior. Well, that's a very boring interpretation. Well, I heard that he was a giant. I was like, well, that's less boring, but still stupid. Next day, they go to another village that's been recently attacked, and they go into the mead hall, and they find a giant in there, which scares them. They name the giant Jotun, even though, as you probably are aware by now, this giant is actually Leman Russ, who's also been tracking down the beast. But he doesn't call himself...
I'm going to giggle at the fact that his name is Jotun.
Jotun's like, are you Jotun's? Like, yes, I am a giant. So they all go together to hunt down the beast, and they ask, so Jotun, how are we going to find this beast? Follow the wolves. Oh yes, of course, follow the wolves. Because as you are aware, there are wolves on Fenris, and they actually say that in the book, rather than there are no wolves on Fenris. Haha. So they make camp for the night and ask Russ, Jotun, whatever you want to call him at this point in the story, have you heard the story of the Russ? And Jotun goes, well, I heard that he was a man who was raised by wolves, but then got adopted by a great tribal king, became king himself, and then met with a man who called himself the master of mankind, who beat him in a fight, and so Russ had to swear fealty to him, and then he went into the sky and sailed the sea of stars. There's a pause, and then the hunters pretty much turn around and say, that's the most retarded thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, it does...
Don't use the R
I mean,
word,
for them, it probably does sound like absolute lunacy. To them.
Yeah. And they also make a point how, canonically, Leman Russ smells like dog. Because, why not?
I mean, in all fairness, they probably all do.
Leman Russ probably more than most, because he canonically has doggy DNA. Anyway.
Corvus smells like burb.
Smells like roast
All I've
chicken.
got in my head is that bit from Monsters Inc. with deodorant about, like, what have you got? I've got whipped dog. Can I have that? Yeah, it's like that. Just, oh, for God's sake. And that's what's going through my head right now. Move on.
Corvid Corax would more than likely bring people shiny objects as a show of affection because
Wrong
he's a burb. That's the right bird. A corvid is a
But
crow.
it's magpies that do that.
And magpies are part of the COVID family.
It's not just magpies.
Ravens do as well.
It's ravens, crows.
Sorry.
I could go on
he's
this.
not Corvid, is he? He's Corvus. So, but yes, you're right. Sorry.
A Corvus is a Corvid.
Yeah, boy.
You are right. Apologies.
Anyway.
So they end up travelling into a very deep forest where they encounter a wolfen. But this wolfen's...
As in like a feral space wolf acolyte
Yes.
on rogue. Okay.
Yes. But this is not the beast that's been hunting down the villagers, because this wolfen has been injured by something bigger.
Oh dear.
So half the hunters basically go, fuck this, I'm out.
As you would.
One stays, though one has died at this point, unfortunately. But yeah, go deep into the forest, and they find the beast, which is basically a massive mutated bear with antlers.
Okay.
As you do. But wait, it's not one, it's two of them! It's a pair! So Russ and this hunter end up fighting the bears. The wolf ends up joining in, attacking, like just leaping onto one of the bears. Then he ends up getting bitten in half. Like, bitten in half by the bear.
Oh, good.
Yep.
No.
Then Russ and the hunter kill both bears, and Russ just goes to the hunters like, you fought well. Stormbird comes out of the sky, out comes a chaplain and a librarian, it's like, oh, crap, more giants. But they're smaller than you. Oh, they must be your they must be your sons. They are, yes. Goodbye. The end.
He doesn't take them with them.
No.
Oh, I was thinking that as you've proven yourselves worthy to become warrior, like join me in the Sea of Stars or something. I thought that's where he was going with it.
Yeah, no, that's not what happens. So you can go and tell.
Okay, thanks, bye. And just
Pretty much like, go and tell your kin the story of Jotun. There you go. You proved yourself as a great warrior, blah, blah, blah. but you're not good enough as the Space Force. Piss off, you're too old.
Yeah. I was wondering, yeah, they're probably too old, but also, like, when you say, you fought well, here comes a chaplain and an apothecary in a bird. I swear I've seen this story before.
It's probably Chaplain Insano.
And then the final story is called... It's about Magnus, yep. And it's called The Sixth Cult of the Denied. And it, so brief tangent. You know the 5 cults of the Thousand Suns, yeah?
The Corvidae, yep. No,
That's
hang on.
Corvidae one of them, yeah.
One of them, yep, sorry.
Yeah. This is about the quote-unquote 6th cult.
Because more parallels to the Space Wolves, they have the 13th Company, we have the 6th.
Yep. And this cult calls itself the Aquilae. Like Aquila, or Keela, or however you want to pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
So the founder of this cult believes he's heading to a symposium to discuss his ideas, because he believes that they can effectively control the warp by harnessing its denizens.
Demonology, yay!
Pretty much, yeah. He goes into the this little amphitheater type place. He sees only 5 other people there, and it's like, oh, it's a bit of a shit turnout for a symposium. Turns out the people that are the leaders of the other cults, like, Amon, Araman, and all the others,
mm-hmm.
and they're telling him to shut the fuck up, you're on trial. What do you mean I'm on trial? You're doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing. What do you mean?
It's literally a Nicaea.
It's a mini Nicaea, pretty much.
Fucking hell.
Now, interspersed with the scenes of the quote-unquote trial, because Magnus turns up and tells the guy, okay, what you have to do, you have to convince me, but you won't. But interspersed between this are little flashback scenes of Magnus making a deal with a denizen of the warp, which he calls Coronzon, which he gives his eye to save the Thousand Suns for the flesh change.
So it's Zinch, then.
It is blatantly Zinch. And the reason why Magnus is so pissed off is like, you're doing the shit I'm doing, and if everyone does it, it's not going to end well for everyone. Stop it. Pretty much. And so
it's not you're doing anything wrong, it's that I can't have you doing what I do, because then the Imperium will find out and we're all screwed.
You guys can't do it because it won't be cool anymore.
Pretty much, yeah. And Emma had this really big, like, metaphysical debate kind of thing. It's like explaining, like, this is what we should be doing. It's like, well, what makes you think you know all the secrets of the warp when even we don't know all the secrets of the warp? It's like, I don't know because I was caught unaware. Can I have a recess to prepare for 5 minutes? Yes. Okay, thank you. I'm fucked.
Which you would be if you're up against Magnus in a duel of wits.
Especially when you're caught completely unaware.
Yes.
So...
I don't know, all you need is like plot armor or door frame that's smaller than 6 feet wide. Yeah, or an angry Borkers with a Null Maiden with it. Do you know the Null Maidens actually have dogs that are blanks also?
I didn't know they had dogs that were blank. I knew they had dogs. I didn't know they had blank dogs.
They also have... It's in their rules in Horus Heresy. They also have birds that are blanks. It's amazing.
Oh.
Blank burb.
Oh, God. I'm trying to think of some dog-based null pariah puns or something. A pariah-ranian or something, I don't know.
Good attempt.
Yeah. Anyway. So basically, after a while, Magnus basically rips into this dude. And basically saying, the reason you can't be doing this is because, quite frankly, I'm already doing it, and I can't let anyone else know, so if you let other people know about this, I will make your suffering more intense than anything you could ever imagine. Clicks his fingers, there's a full symposium now, it's like, now I look forward to hearing your symposium, let's hear what you've got to talk about. The end.
Oh, Magnus.
As I said, Magnus is a prick.
Yeah, that's... Jeez.
Yeah.
But
that's
at least
all
Magnus was honest about, look, I am doing this stuff and it's not good and we need to keep it under wraps. It wasn't just, you are evil, you must die, I'm a massive hypocrite, though obviously the Nicaea parallels are stark. But at the very least, he isn't just like, you have to stop for arbitrary reasons. It's because we need to keep this under wraps.
Pretty much, yeah. But that's all I've read so far. The other 3 stories, one's focusing on Dawn, one focusing on Alfarius, and the other focuses on Mortarion. So they should be interesting. So,
Except for the Mortarion one, it'll probably be a slog.
in fairness, the Buried Dead guy I found quite enjoyable. And that was pretty much a Mortarion focused story. It was basically the Mortarion origin story, so... Yeah, it could be worse.
Good old Morty.
No, Morty's the Fulgrim clone. Yeah, and Rick's Fabius Bile.
That's true. Hey, should we finish this story? Nah, let's just Deus Ex Machina into another story in like 10 years.
Listen, Fulgrim, you gotta go to treason now. I was like, oh, teacher.
You sure you didn't say, oh, daddy? I mean, it's Fulgrim.
No, he just pulls a lewd face. And that's canonical. You can't have a go at me for that.
He bites his lower lip and does the...
I'm just quoting something directly from the book.
I know, I'm just saying be careful.
I know. No, I'm not going to be talking about the other thing I found out, but I'll tell you after the show. Anyway.
Okay, thank you.
I just love that Dorn beat Fulgrim so badly that Fulgrim threw a temper
That was
tantrum and quit
hilarious.
The heresy.
And that is huge spoilers, because that
And then
book
at
isn't
the
out on
meeting-
general release yet, is it?
Yes, it
Or
is.
Or it
That's
is?
Saturnine. That's Saturnine, yeah.
Ah, right.
Yeah, it
oops.
is. Yeah, and in a war council with Sanguinius, he's just like, yeah, we have to double up our efforts over here, and over here. Did we get any victories today? Nothing of note. What do you mean nothing of note? Didn't Fulgrim retreat? Oh yeah, but he wasn't a factor. And I'm just like, Dorn! When did you become my favorite Primarch?
The deadpan sass.
No, Dorn doesn't. Like, he flat out just says to Fulgrim, like, Fulgrim's like, aren't you going to try to convince me? Tell me my ways are wrong. And Dorn is just like, no, I'm just going to kill you. And then starts beating the ever-living piss out of him. Fulgrim transforms. He's like, me.
Oh.
Grabs him by his stupid tail, starts beating him
Alexis.
down on the ground again.
I tell you what that scene reminds me of. Have you ever seen Beast Wars?
No.
You know that bit in the last
Yes.
episode, Megatron goes like, well, let's hear the whole Destiny on Honor speech. Speech this. Punch.
Yes. But it actually reminded me of Tony Stark fighting the Hulk with the Hulkbuster. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. Because Fulgrim's just like, I'm an immortal.
I don't care.
It's just like, I didn't hear no bell.
Oh.
Because as immortal as the Primarchs are, they still have the same weakness every
Yep.
demon does. If your willpower is stronger, they simply can't beat you.
It's basically like throwing a tomato at a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
And the tomato had a tantrum and went home.
And then for Dorn to just say he was a non-factor was amazing.
You can just imagine if Dawn was still around, he'd turn around and say, I beat up Fulgrim Gilliman. What did you do? You lost in the fight to him. Wimp.
In all fairness, Fulgrim did trap and isolate him and then cut
I
him apart.
know, I'm being facetious.
No, he's the Phoenician.
Heyo.
I got one out of that one. Counts Tactica.
Yeah, it does.
Though we're still waiting on a head desk.
To be fair, as soon as you started the Nokia thing, I was just like that constantly. I was just at the wrong angle for a head desk, so you got an honorary head desk.
I'll take the honorary head desk.
No, it's not the same.
Because what was the most amount of head desks we actually got in an episode? It was something like 17, wasn't it?
There was one episode where I think I went like 5 in a row when you said just something utterly ludicrous. ludicrous.
Something like that, yeah.
And we'll never
I can't
know.
remember what it was, but actually, episode 100 I don't think has the record for most head deaths because I got all the way.
There was an episode after that I had more. I remember that.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of, we are coming up on the at a couple of different anniversaries actually, because episode 126 will be a year since episode 100. I've got a plan for that, and episode 136 will be 5. No, it won't. Yes, it will. Hang on. 2.5 times. Hang on, not 2.5 times 52. Oh, hang on. I'm trying to think of what the 5-year anniversary is. I think it's 130. Yeah, 130 is the 5-year anniversary.
Damn.
So that's all going to happen this year.
Neato.
Anyway.
Speaking of which, I think we should try and get 1 or 2 questions in, considering we're in 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. Let's do some questions.
Right. Okay. Question for Tactica. If you were to bring Bretonnia into AOS that's not Flesh Eater Courts, how would you write them in and make them fit into the AOS aesthetic?
To be honest, you don't need to do that much to them in some ways.
Remove the sexism from their older stories.
I mean, yes, you do need to modernize them, absolutely. But in terms of the idea of questing knights, going around with sort of serfs and the like there will be societies in the mortal realms that are like that. There will be small castle-based holdings which are kind of like what the Flesh Eater Courts envision themselves as. And I know you can't just say they're the Flesh Eater Courts, though they clearly are. The ideas of that sort of noble stronghold against chaos that held out through the ages and now has sort of a tentative alliance as Sigmar makes his return. They don't believe that Sigmar will save them. They may worship Alariel as the goddess of life, or they may put their stock in some other mythical figure that they believe in. I don't know. You could basically just copy-paste them across, give them a bit of a modernize, and set them up as bastions that held out in the Age of Chaos somehow. Doesn't matter how.
Question. Didn't the Green Knight and Luen Leoncoeur ascend to godhood? Because didn't they go off with Lilith?
Generally, the only ones that have become gods are those that were incarnates back in the days of fantasy. So, for example, their Teclis and Tyrion embodied Hish, so they became the gods of light. Alariel became the incarnate of Gyron, so she's now a goddess. Malekith was the embodiment of shadow, so he became a god. Marathi wasn't. Now, that's not a 100% copy-paste across, because where's Cara Drín and why isn't he the Lord of Fire? And Grimgor Ironhide as well would be more at home with actually than Gur, if I remember correctly. But certainly, of the characters that have been brought across, the only ones that have made it to godhood are the former incarnates, or someone like Sigmar, or they've been specifically brought over for a reason, like the Mortarch, Gotrek, Eltharion, and that's about it.
Oh, apparently he turned into a character called the Golden Paladin.
That I didn't read the End Times. I was sort of not playing fantasy at the time, so I didn't actually buy the End Times books. So I don't know exactly what happened to Leon Leoncoeur or the Green Knight. But if there's scope for the Green Knight as sort of a wandering errant, or Leoncoeur as a sort of a mythical figure in Azir, particularly because, Pegasus. Hell, work in the Order of Azir. Make them the sort of the battle force of the Order of Azir. They have their agents and the witch hunters and the knights and all that. But if you've got ground-based knights like the one in Curse City, why not give them mounted cavalry and make them the Order of Azir with their Pegasus, or Pegasi, I think is the correct plural, or whatever. And go down that route and just rework them to take away sort of the Knights of the Realms and make them the Pegasus Knights and the Order of Azir. Something like that, I don't know. Like the Valkyries almost. Make them the Valkyries.
Giving the Bretonnians some more Viking estate would be pretty cool. Like, kind of gave the Lumineth more of a, an Eastern flair rather than traditional Elven.
Yeah, but
You could go Gaelic. Don't forget the Gaelic.
They could absolutely do that. I think they generally leave that spot for the dwarves, unfortunately. But absolutely they could. go down a Nordic Valkyrie route instead of just the traditional French. I think that could be really cool at making them the Valkyries for the Order of Azir, who are already the witch hunters, and like, yeah, on wings of lightning they come. Like, come on, yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Yes. Cue up.
Oh, look, it's Daniel Bryan.
That's topical, but we'll see. Anyway, moving on.
Right, question for Tactica. Have you put any thought into Adeptus Podcastus episode 150?
No. That person actually was in my Discord and asked me privately on Discord, and I said the same. No, we haven't got that far yet. We do need to. We need to have a chat about that at some point, but we have not got that far yet because it's 30 episodes away. That's more than a year.
Fair enough. Question for Tactica.
Was there nothing else?
There was a lot for you this week.
Well, fair enough, I suppose.
What are your thoughts on what the Mordian General says on page 217 bottom? Is it appropriate humour, good timing, or a reflection on how beaten down with exhaustion the General is? I assume they're talking about Game of Bones.
Yeah, they are talking about Game of Bones.
I was going to say Game of Thrones for a second.
I don't have the book in front of me, but there was no joke in there that felt out of place. I'll go that far. I'm not going to sit here and recite the quote because I don't remember. If you can stall me for a minute, I can go and find it. But
we can do if you like. Because I got a question next for everyone.
I will go and find the book in that case. We're back in a minute.
Okay. So, a question for everyone: has there been anything that GW did story-wise that made you go no?
Honestly, not really. I expect 40k and AOS to just be completely bonkers at this point, and no bit of lore, no matter how silly, doesn't fit into the universe. Although the thing that does bug me is that there is zero consistency.
Yeah. Lacking consistency is a huge thing, yeah.
Characters changing radically. Like, completely... They have the same name, different character. Like Fulgrim from Graham McNeil to any other Fulgrim. What's another one?
Comrade Kurz.
That's like the prem. Well, Conrad Kurz outside of Arondinsky Bowden's hands isn't worth reading. Like, that's just a given. Abaddon, with ADB, Abaddon is like this actual really cool general who's actually incredibly charismatic, intelligent, plans out all of his attacks, works really hard for his plans, and then you have Abaddon the derp, who is just like, oh, this is the comedy bad guy of the week, and it's just like, you can't make Abaddon, who leads thousands of ships, the comedy bad guy, because you can't just beat him and leave.
Sorry, I am back. In the Dawn of Fire books, he hasn't shown up in person yet, but they always seem to set him up as the big bad, and like, you don't want to disappoint the despoiler on the Chaos side, and we need to stop Abaddon and work out what the heck he's doing and trying to decipher his plans on the Imperial side. So they give him that fair treatment in Dawn of Fire. Granted, he hasn't shown up in person yet. I found the quote, by the way, whenever you're done.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
So the quote in case is in reference to essentially when a group of sisters return holding I think it may actually be the guardswoman in question from earlier. And he says, once he sees what's going on, he adjusted his eyes, saw the source, and he dropped his binoculars. The Emperor's holy shh, he said, quite forgetting himself while stood in front of a canoness.
The holy what?
The S word. I'm a teacher. There may be students listening. I need to be careful.
I thought it was literally just the Emperor's holy shh.
No, the Emperor's holy bleep.
Right.
The canoness didn't notice because she was on her knees just sobbing in prayer. She's like, yes, praise the Emperor, and all this. Was it? No, I read that and I laughed. I found that quite funny. I think it's appropriate humour, and it makes sense as well. Again, this whole book's about faith and all that. So yeah, the Emperor's holy bleep is absolutely appropriate.
Fair enough. Right. Where is it? I'll load up, you stupid YouTube. I hate YouTube Studio. I hate it so much. It's so bloody slow.
It is rather chunky, yes.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with
Yes,
that.
but I'm running on my machine. My machine is a potato. It can barely run Dawn of War.
I'm a potato.
I'm a potato.
You're a tomato. Oh, I said potato.
I swear there's a Portal 2
Remleiz,
reference in
it's
there
confusing.
somewhere.
This is a triumph.
That's Portal 1.
I don't care. It's still Portal.
Absolutely.
Right. Do you think Urda is still around in 40k?
Yes, 100%. She's a perpetual. I actually believe that she's standing by side of the Emperor.
This is Urda, the Primarch's air quote mother, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, the lover of the Emperor.
Just for the benefit of the audience who haven't read
Saturn.
Saturn.
The Emperor for a while. I absolutely love Urda as a character. She was extremely well presented, and her insight on the Emperor was much needed. I love the fact that she saved the Primarchs from the Emperor to try to delay his plans. And I believe that ultimately, and this is my theory, I believe that ultimately her plan is what won. Because the Emperor was trying to force the evolution of humanity to Psychers and to ascend them outside of the galaxy into the warp. Not into the warp, into the webway to finalize his project. Urda knew that you can't force evolution, and the Emperor has done it in the past, and every single time he's tried to do it has failed. But they know that the Emperor is super intelligent. It's also implied that there is a polyamorous relationship between her, the Emperor, Astarte, and Malkador, which I thought was pretty interesting. Because they do say we loved him at one time, but it could be as a brother, it could be as a lover, it could be as a father. Regardless, Urda's plan was for the Emperor to sit back, as the Perpetuals always did, and guide humanity to the next stage of evolution. And if he did all of that, instead of just trying to force the evolution with the Primarchs and with Astarte, I believe that, well, he kicked off the heresy, he kicked off chaos, hating him and everything, because of his visions. But Urda just wanted him to wait. And currently he's been waiting for 10,000 years, and we have the Psychic Awakening. So my personal belief is that Urda and the Emperor are working together to guide humanity.
It's certainly not outside the realms of possibility. Sounds like plausible. Very plausible.
Because she quite literally talks about doing exactly that in Saturnine.
Which could just be throw a lampshade on it, because GW are very good at that with their historical novels of throwing a lampshade on something that happened later. But absolutely, could be the plan, which is, well, the new plan, which is also the old plan, but is also the new plan. And, oh, good grief, I'm going to confuse myself now.
And now I've gone cross-eyed.
No, but things, like, jokes aside, I really like what they did with the Thunder Warriors, how they sided with Astarte, and they launched their coup against the Imperium, ultimately being destroyed by the Space Marines. I loved Urda trying to explain that Astarte needed to do that in order for the next stage of human evolution to happen, because the older generation needed to die so the newer generation could get stronger. It's an extremely well-written book. Like, Saturnine was absolutely amazing. The book prior to it was also really good, and I'm just waiting for the next Siege of Terror book. Oh, also there's fighting in them, if you like that. I honestly could care less about the actual heresy and Space Marines shooting each other, because it's boring to me. Like, Space Marines killing each other is what Space Marines do. I'd rather listen to the
that reminds me, actually, there was a really nice line in Gate of Bones about, if there's one thing that the Adeptus Custodians are really good at, it's killing Space Marines. Just like...
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely accurate. It's a Custodian that says it. And it's just like, yeah, I understood that reference.
Yep.
Fair enough. Have any of you read The Corpse Road?
I've never heard of it, in all honesty.
It's a Honsu story, it looks like. No? Okay. Right. Honsu's arc as of The Corpse Road left us with his intentions being, quote, to travel to Medringard and meet with the Lord of High himself, the demon Primarch Perturabo. Imagine that you personally were given full creative license to continue the Honsu story to meet Perturabo. How would you go about their interaction?
So, I have a theory about Perturabo.
Yep.
I don't think Perturabo is a demon. Even though he's referred to as a demon prince, I don't think that he went through the apotheosis to become a demon.
I thought he sacrificed all the gene seed after the Iron Cage and was granted ascension to demonhood at that point.
I am 100% that is what happened, but I really liked what again, this is Saturnine. I loved the conversation between Abaddon and him, where Abaddon said, this isn't a victory. Even if we win this day, we didn't win. The demons did. Mm-hmm. You didn't win this battle. The demons did.
I'll just say this. You're going to love how the conversation he has in Mortis. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, like, Abaddon is an amazingly well-written character for the most part.
I was referring to Perturabo in this case specifically.
Oh, yeah. Perturabo I like as well. I always have this feeling that Purdy is just, he's just like, he's the type of kid that when you try to show him any type of affection or anything, he kicks you away. But deep down, he desperately wants the approval of everybody around him. I mean, he's an abused child, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, that's true for many of the Primarchs, to be fair. But yeah, I see where you're going with it.
How are we doing for...
Also, now I want a what-if scenario if Erda found the Primarchs instead of the Emperor.
That would be interesting. As for Honsu, I've never really read into Honsu. I don't know much about him. He's just one of those characters I've never really looked into. So I don't really know what he did. I don't really know whether that would have cost the Iron Warriors greatly or cost a long war or done something to the Imperial Fist. I know his name, but I genuinely do not remember a thing he's done. That's quite bad of me. Oh, he's the guy who went into the Red Corsair Arena and basically won himself a warband off Blackheart, isn't he?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I don't remember a thing. Is he from the Ventress novels, Lysander?
Yeah, he's in the Ventress novels as well, yeah.
Right. Yeah, as I said, I don't really know him, so I can't really comment on where he's still.
He also has an arm covered in necrodermis as well.
Oh, so he's discount Ferrus Manus then. Cool.
I just remember that in Storm of Iron, his warband had a captured, Tyrant Hive ship that was infected with the Obliterator virus. That was transporting a Diezere.
Okay, right.
Because why not?
Because why not? That's a bit of a madness.
This is Games Workshop, after all. We don't need to make sense.
I mean, all you gotta do is look at some of the novels from the early 90s.
Okay, so I have this whole thing where I am just done reading anything 4th edition and backwards. Like, anything before 4th edition. Because I have read every single codex, I've read every single rulebook, and everything from, just about everything. I can't say everything, this is hyperbole. But I've read pretty much everything from 4th edition backwards. And it's all so piss poor, and it's definitely influenced by the time. And it does not hold up. Especially the Imperium. I'm glad what they did with the Imperium, where they changed it from its roots to a feudalistic empire.
Fair enough. How are we doing for time, by the way?
1 hour 59.
So we've probably got time for, one more question?
Give or take.
Okay. Let's see. Let's pick a good one. What's this got to do with Star Trek? Nothing. Right. Okay. Question for Tactica. Your thoughts on a future plot point of an Imperial Civil War now that Guilliman knows about the Fallen?
Wait, he's known about the Fallen since his rebirth. Just about. Right after, I think,
yes, Cypher saved him, so he knows. And to be fair,
I don't know if they're actually referring to that bit in the new Dark Angels Codex where Marnius Calgon knows about the Fallen.
But bear in mind, Guilliman himself went to the Rock and essentially the Dark Angel's like, oh god, prepare for war, prepare for war, prepare for war. It's fine, we're just docking to drop off some stuff. And Guilliman just breezes over it. So the Dark Angels...
Well, I mean...
Dark Angels will know that he knows. Or if they don't know that he knows, they'll be bleep scared of him finding out, even though he already knows. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Like, why would the Dark Angels turn on Guilliman for any reason?
When they're the most loyal legion.
But they're trying to prove that to him. And just like, no, we're fine. Nothing to see here. We're not going to make an issue about these Primaris. It's fine.
In fact, Guilliman knowing about the Fallen is actually a benefit to the Dark Angels.
Absolutely. But the fact that I don't think that the Dark Angels are going to risk getting annihilated by the Imperium, because they would lose and no one would join them, apart from the Fallen, and that's one legion against, well, depending on how much you count the Unnumbered Sons as, at least probably 5. At least.
Yeah. And...
Yeah, like, everybody has this idea that the Dark Angels are, like, this evil renegade chapter when every bit of lore points to the opposite. Like, everything is just like, yeah, the fall happened and we're repenting for that. That is correct. But you know who else lost half their legion? The White Scars, and nobody bats an eye at that. Mainly
because the White Scars dealt with it, moved on, and stopped ever talking about it. The Dark Angels went on a sort of, right, no one can know, we must abandon everything on occasion. On occasion, we must abandon everything in order to keep our secret. The White Scars don't make it particularly well known that they had a massive secession, but also it happened quietly. They lost a ship. Or a few ships. They didn't lose their homeworld. They didn't need to make a big deal of it because they dealt with it. Khan survived. It was no big deal. And the Magyar Mazan...
Oh, no, that's what I'm getting at, is everybody in the lore, like everybody who reads the lore tends to, and I say reads the lore in quotes because we know they don't, tends to have this idea that the Dark Angels are always trying to work against the Imperium. And it's like, no. I mean, sure, they're shock and awe troops that specialize in rapid insertion, aggression, and target elimination, and then leaving, which is exactly what their chapter is meant for. Mm-hmm. First information gathering with espionage, the standard go-to for Dark Angels. And, like, every bit of lore just indicates that they are loyal, they're just jerks.
Yeah. But, in fairness as well, though, they're not above doing the odd bit of shifty shit.
Oh, absolutely. They are.
Oh, no, without a doubt.
But it's not like the Alpha Legion, who are generally anti-Imperium, except when it's convenient. The Dark Angels are very much pro-Imperium, pro-humanity, yada, 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 but sometimes they just go and need to deal with a thing on the side. Yeah. I think with the White Scars point is the fact that the reason the Dark Angels get all the flack, and the Blood Angels, who lost a giant bunch that...
Oh, I just think it's because, like, nobody actually knows that the White Scars fell.
Yeah. And those, in an out-of-universe perspective, accurate. In an in-universe perspective, the White Scars, bear in mind, the Magyar Mazan actually were redeemed and sacrificed their own lives trying to kill Mortarion. So the White Scars just dealt with it and moved on.
Yeah. Which the Dark Angels are trying to do. It's just very hard when all of them are masters of freaking espionage.
Unless you're the Angels Absolution and you say, yeah, we've already dealt with that, we don't care anymore.
Yeah, good old Angels of Absolution.
Yep.
I still love that they make a silent nod at the Little Sisters of Purification in the Dark Angels novel. They call them the Young Ones, and they don't respond.
See, now, I'm just having a mental image of Rick Mail and Power Armor, now you mentioned the Young Ones.
Mm-hmm. Well, remember, younglings have to be taught lightsaber fighting.
And with that...
They weren't properly trained.
And one very, very quick question to end on. Can any incarnation of Godzilla survive in 40k? Yes.
Oh, without a doubt. Godzilla would be perfectly fine. Godzilla would tank, like... After watching everything for Godzilla, Godzilla could tank multiple Titans fighting it, and he could step on warlords. Like, a lot of people don't realize that a warlord is only about 400 foot tall.
Yeah.
Godzilla towers over.
In fairness, it does depend on which incarnation of Godzilla we're talking about.
Well, let's for reference, let's talk about the most recent.
I personally would have gone for
which I believe
I would have gone for Godzilla Earth because that is like the biggest incarnation. The one I took.
I wouldn't go for that one because that one's stupid.
In fact, that one did tank.
That's
it did
right.
tank like the entirety of the United States nuclear stockpile and walked away without a scratch.
Yeah, but in Godzilla Final Wars, Godzilla survived an asteroid traveling faster than light that hit him point blank and just got up.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, Final Wars Godzilla was a good one.
Yes, it was. It was amazing.
Hmm.
I really like that King Ghidorah in that one was a quadruped. But that was really cool. Nice twist on him.
I thought that was Kaiser
yeah.
Ghidorah rather than King Ghidorah.
Well, yeah, it's Monster X Kaiser Ghidorah, so you are correct.
Yeah.
But the way I see it is Godzilla moves too fast for the Titans to lock on to. Godzilla is cold-blooded, so none of the tracking weapons would work on it. It would be down to omniscient scopes trying to find the damn thing, and Titans are just too slow to keep up with Godzilla.
And he
Godzilla
can breathe in
also
space.
knows boxing. Can breathe in space, breathe underwater, knows boxing, knows jujitsu for no reason.
And Irish dancing.
Knows Irish dancing.
And
Yep.
can fly by using his atomic breath as a jet.
But
that was stupid.
Let's strictly go with Godzilla from Godzilla versus King Kong. That Godzilla took one hell of a beating for like a solid like 20-30 minutes while they were reviving Kong. And then just got up and beat the ever-living piss out of Mechagodzilla. So yeah, a Titan wouldn't stand a chance against Godzilla, but you would have to use like things like, I don't know, spacecraft in low orbit, but even Godzilla's atomic breath can hit that. Since it can burrow down to the center of the Earth.
Cyclonic torpedo, perhaps.
He could probably tank it. Your best bet would probably be a vortex missile.
Live Eater?
It wouldn't affect him. He adapts too quickly. They've tried poisoning Godzilla.
All it needs is the oxygen
they would-
destroyer.
Yeah, you would have to drop the oxygen destroyer or something similar.
Or just get Destroyer.
And on that bombshell.
Well, Destroyer did well. That's about it.
Yeah.
Right, and with that, I think we arrive at the end of episode 120 of Adeptus Podcastus. Thank you very much to Alexis for joining us once again. It's always a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, that's fun. Thank you, too.
No problem at all. Obviously, we've got a few events this year now with, as I mentioned earlier, the 5-year anniversary is in 10 episodes' time. So that, well, actually, technically 11 episodes because episode 131 would be 5 years. But we will have a think about that. We'll have a chat about that in the meantime. But for now, thank you very much for watching. We do hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave your questions down below in the comments with the word question, and we will do our best to ask them in the next episode. But for now, this has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Oh, yeah, I'm here, too. Hello. Okay, bye.
And that was NornQueenAlexis. And we'll see you all again. Bye for now.